Hi there, my name is Annalisa and I'm from the Tertiary Information Service, or TIS for short. In this session, we'll be looking at all the information you need to know as you begin to prepare for future study and life after high school. But before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are presenting from today, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and to any Indigenous people who might be tuning into today's session. So, what exactly is TIS? TIS is a collective of universities, TAFE institutes, and independent tertiary colleges that work to inform students and help them prepare for future careers. There are many options after Year 12, such as full-time work, taking a gap year, apprenticeships or traineeships, or going on to further study. Whether you are completing VCE, IB, VCAL, or another senior certificate, there is likely an option out there for you. Today, we'll focus on what you need to think about over the coming months and years to help you make the most informed decision you can about your future. So, let's start by looking at a few different reasons why you might choose to pursue tertiary study.
Quite simply, getting qualified after you finish school increases your chances of getting a job. Census data shows that the workforce participation rate for people with a certificate, diploma or degree is 80 to 90%, whereas for people who have not completed any tertiary study, it is only 61%. Statistics also show that employers prefer tertiary graduates. In 2005, less than half the Australian workforce had a tertiary qualification. Fast forward to 2015, and 63% of the Australian workforce have a tertiary qualification. If we keep going at this rate, by 2025, 77%, more than 3/4 of the Australian workforce, will have completed some kind of tertiary study. So you could say that tertiary study is becoming more and more essential to getting a job and building a career. And then there is the money. Tertiary graduates are likely to make more money than people with only a high school certificate. The median weekly income for someone who has no tertiary study is $784 per week. For those with one tertiary qualification, they average $1,100 per week. For those with 2 or more tertiary qualifications, they average $1,342 per week. So there are serious benefits in pursuing tertiary study after you finish school. And it's not just about the money and getting a job, as we'll explain next.
The way we work is changing. The great news is we are all living longer, but living longer also means possibly spending a longer time in the workforce. Does that mean we have to make a decision in the next few years about what we'll do for the rest of our lives? Absolutely not. We're already seeing an increasing number of career changes during life. This isn't just changing between jobs, but changing between completely different types of work. The Foundation for Young Australians suggests current high school students will have up to 17 different jobs over 5 different careers in their life. This is very different to what your parents or grandparents would likely have experienced. This change has presented a need for lifelong learning to support this new and exciting approach to work. One of the ways to support this lifelong learning is by developing a range of soft or transferable skills, including planning, teamwork, written and spoken communication skills, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and many more. Whether a certificate, diploma, or bachelor course, the Foundation for Young Australians agree that these skills are often learned through tertiary studies. Other trends that suggest these transferable skills are vital to succeed in future workplaces are those that say many jobs of the future don't actually exist today. We need more people honing these flexible skills through a tertiary qualification today so they'll be able to adapt to the new challenges of tomorrow. Because of this, it's also likely the tertiary study you do when you leave high school is not the only time you will study. You may choose to return later in your career to do further postgraduate study or change careers and choose to do a TAFE qualification. A tertiary study adventure is no longer a linear journey.
So now you know the advantages of further education. Let's talk about what you can study. There are many types of tertiary qualifications, and that includes more than just the range of study areas you can choose from. Today we'll look at certificates, diplomas and advanced diplomas, degrees and qualifications offered through independent tertiary colleges. First, we'll touch on certificates, diplomas and advanced diplomas. These qualifications are what we call vocational education and are usually taught at TAFEs, independent tertiary colleges and dual sector universities. TAFE stands for Technical and Further Education, and courses taught here usually can be completed within 6 months to 2 years, although if you're thinking about doing an apprenticeship, it can be 3 to 4 years long. ATAR scores are generally not required for these courses, meaning that both VCAL and VCE students can apply for them. When it comes to diplomas and advanced diplomas, they can often provide pathways and credits into bachelor degrees at universities. It's important to do your research which diplomas and advanced diplomas can be used as pathways into degrees, but we'll talk a bit more about pathways later on. Vocational education can often be hands-on learning, where students learn practical skills to be work-ready. The learning environment is similar to high school, where you'll spend time moving about with the same classmates, and you will generally spend 20 to 25 hours per week at TAFE. If you're interested in vocational studies, some places will allow you to apply directly to the institution. However, some places may ask you to submit an application via VTAC, so make sure you do your research. If you're interested in studying a certificate level course, you may be able to receive a concession price for your tuition fee. However, if you are hoping to study a diploma level course, you may need to pay a full fee or apply for a VET student loan. We'll talk about fees a little later on. Next up, we have bachelor degrees, which are also known as undergraduate degrees. So don't be thrown off because we often interchange these terms. A bachelor degree normally takes 3 to 5 years to complete and is a combination of theory and practical learning as well as individual and team learning. If you decide to study a bachelor degree, you will be expected to take on quite a lot of independent learning, where often you will attend lectures, tutorials and workshops, and you may not be with the same group of students for every class. Most bachelor degrees are taught at university, but independent tertiary colleges and TAFEs also offer more specialised degree options. A student at university generally has less contact hours on campus than someone at TAFE, but keep in mind exam revision and assignments may need to be completed outside of the class. Students generally spend 12 to 16 hours in class studying at uni each week, and another 12 to 16 hours studying in their own time. However, some students may have a much bigger workload depending on the course they are studying. For example, a student who is undergoing vet studies, medicine, or engineering, just to name a few, may have more contact hours than other students. VCE and IB students are eligible for courses at university and can apply through VTAC. Many undergraduate degrees have Commonwealth supported places, which means you will not need to pay the full amount of tuition fees. However, there are some that may require you to pay full fees, so it's important to do your research. If you are an Australian citizen, you can also apply for HECS help. The other place you'll be able to complete tertiary study is at a range of independent tertiary colleges, which are often referred to as ITCs. ITCs can offer both vocational and higher education, and they often specialise in specific fields of study. For example, they may have a strong focus on creative arts, IT, or beauty, just to name a few, but there's a lot more out there. If you decide to study at an ITC, you may be expected to pay full fee or utilise the fee help scheme, but we will touch on fees and break down the different types of fee help later in the presentation.
So we've outlined the types of qualifications you might be considering and where you can study them, but what's the actual experience like? Studying after high school is about much more than just study. It's an exciting time in your lives as you discover more freedom than you've ever had. While studying, you'll have the opportunity to join clubs, societies and sporting teams. Many institutions will give you the opportunity to study overseas, giving you an amazing travel experience without putting your studies on hold. And of course, through all of this, you have an incredible opportunity to meet new people and try new things. So while it might feel like studying is a big next step, just remember that it's an amazing time in your life and there's much more to experience than just hitting the books. While the transition from high school to further study is exciting, it can also be a little daunting. It's important to know that institutions are there to support you every step of the way. Particularly for regional students, there's no doubt moving away from family and friends to study can be an unsettling or intimidating experience. However, it's good to know that institutions have a number of support services to assist. After all, you're not the first person to move away to study, and you definitely won't be the last, so it's safe to say that institutions have a pretty good idea of how to help. Before we talk about the realities of moving away and some of the things you might need to think about, let's hear from Jack, who's made the move to further study and done it all before.
Hi, my name's Jack. I moved to Melbourne and I'm studying commerce. Started, I guess, Maitland, country town. Loved it over there, very quiet, very small. And then eventually came into Adelaide as as a kid to go to primary school and then eventually high school. And eventually, I finished high school. I had the option by staying in Adelaide, which most of my friends were doing. It wasn't really a big thing to move interstate or to take sort of, I guess, a bit of a jump and move to Victoria. That was really, small boy coming to big city town vibes. Yeah. I didn't have any family, so that was unfortunately my big factor at the start. Was I don't have any family, so I can't chicken out and just go back to live with family in Melbourne. So I knew I had to find something that was completely new for me. So colleges were sort of advertised a little bit before even I had got my ATAR, but there was something that you could go to, you live there, and you live with about a couple hundred other students. For me, that was really attractive as something where I could come and meet people in the exact same boat. I only packed a very large bag, stuck my teddy bear and whatnot in it, and then flew off from Adelaide. I didn't drive over with a whole bunch of stuff or anything, and I turned up and I was basically like, right, fresh start. I left all my posters, all that stuff. And that's something else that's really attractive about moving to Melbourne, is you get that fresh start sort of attribute. It's a big city, no one knows anyone really, and you can have a fresh start. You can reinvent yourself. Yeah, homesickness is going to be a bit of an issue. I found that I was so busy straight away that you almost don't have time to sort of think about home. You almost become too busy to be homesick in a way, if that makes sense. For me, that was what I came here for. I came here for that activity, that, new adventure. So if you want that buzz of activity, then yeah, Melbourne's the place.
So as Jack mentioned, it's obviously very exciting making the move to a big city to study, but there are some things you might want to start researching from now and kick off those conversations with your parents or guardians.
Let's discuss accommodation. Moving away from home is a big deal, especially if you're moving cities to study. There's a number of options available, and now is the right time to start thinking about these options. A homestay might be the right option for you. You might be lucky enough to have friends or family living near the institution and you could bunk with them, or take the spare bedroom. This could be your cheapest and easiest option. Another option might be living in off-campus accommodation through a private student living accommodation provider. These buildings are often high-rise apartment style living and might have students from a number of different institutions living in them. Some institutions will also offer on-campus accommodation options, such as residential colleges and halls of residence. Like Jack mentioned in the video, you'll likely be located very close to campus and will potentially be living with hundreds of students from your institution. Or you might feel more comfortable renting a share house with friends. There's plenty of options, and institutions will have lots of information available to help discover which option is best for you. When you move to another city for study, or even if you just move out of home in your own town, not only is your learning going to be more independent, but your living will be too. You'll need to manage your new workload and find the right balance between study, work, and life. When you move out, it might be the first time you've had to cook for yourself every night, do the groceries, and make sure your bills are paid on time for things like internet, phone, electricity, water, and gas. And of course, all these things cost money. So how are you going to afford your new student life? Maybe you'll need to get a casual or part-time job. Maybe you'll need to investigate things like youth allowance through Centrelink. Maybe you need to have a conversation now with your parents or guardians to discuss your options. Keep in mind, though, there's lots of assistance available, and we'll talk about these assistances available to pay for your study fees in a minute. Like Jack said in his video, the transition from high school to university or post-school study is a challenging but a really exciting one. You'll have the opportunity to join clubs and societies, to meet new people, explore new ideas, and help you settle in. You'll have a lot more freedom. However, with that freedom comes responsibilities. But there's plenty of assistance and support available if you lose your way and need a nudge in the right direction. So why not start planning and practicing now? We've spoken a little about the costs of life you might need to think about, but let's turn our eyes to the cost of your tuition or study fees.
Now, although most study isn't free, one of the great things about being an Australian citizen or permanent resident is that the Australian government wants to help you get into tertiary education. The government offers fee assistant programs, including HEX Help, Fee Help, Vet Student Loans, and government subsidised places, based on the type of course you would like to study and your citizenship or residence status. These fee assistance programs are where the government gives you a loan to pay for your tuition fee, and you pay them back once you've graduated and are earning over a certain salary. For example, students that receive HEX Help or Vet Student Loan to help pay for a tertiary course will start repaying their loan when they earn over the current salary threshold of around $47,000 per year. Please note that this threshold amount can change in future years, so please check the Study Assist website for more information. The loan repayment generally comes out of your pay with tax and is a small amount per week. It is really important to do some research into fees to understand whether fee support might be available to you. You may have also heard of the Victorian Government's Free TAFE initiative, through which students can undertake a range of certificate, diploma and advanced diplomas and have their tuition fees covered by the government. However, students might still need to pay for materials and amenity fees. Courses available via Free TAFE are for high demand areas, so it may change each year. Again, it's important to do some further research. This fee assistance will help cover the cost of your study, but remember, there might be a number of other costs you have to consider in the next stage of your life. More immediate costs might include things like rent, groceries, entertainment, and utilities. And if you aren't already, it might be time to start making a budget and figure out what's going to work best for you. You might need to ensure you have a casual or part-time job to help cover these costs. Another way to cover these living costs is through scholarships. Now, I'm sure you've heard of scholarships before. They vary in size and are generally given out based on either merit or equity. Merit simply means it's based on your scores, performance, or application standard. Equity scholarships help students cover the costs of studying higher education, in particular for those who may not be able to afford it otherwise. There's many ways you can apply for scholarships. Some can be applied through VTAC, some you may need to apply directly to the institutions, and others you might be automatically considered for based on your application details or C's application, but we'll talk about C's in a second. Now let's hear from Giorgio about how he applied for his scholarship.
Hi guys, I'm Giorgio. I'm studying a Bachelor of Applied Science and I received a scholarship. Raise your hand if you like free money. So I first knew about scholarships when, I always knew they existed, but until I read more about my course and when I decided it was like the right course for me, I saw in VTAC that they had these options for different scholarships. And no one ever thinks they're gonna get a scholarship, so I just checked all the boxes and by luck I received one of them and started my first year. It was good. So I applied for all of them, but the one that I did receive was the equity-based scholarship, which means that I got paid periodically throughout the year, and it was a lump sum of money through each period. For some of your courses, you're going to have required textbooks, required readings, even just buying stationery and exercise books, which is pretty much for all your courses. That's what some of my money went to, paying for my food, even paying public transport, and just really getting around and studying at uni. So really all it was in VTAC, when you apply for the course, there was the drop down list and it listed a fair few scholarships. And I read a bit about them, what each one of them entailed, and they all sounded appealing. And I was just fortunate enough to get the equity-based one. But I would have been happy with any of them really. Even when I applied, not in my wildest dreams, I was expecting a scholarship. And I think when anyone really applies, no one's expecting to receive one. Just do your best you can, apply for them, because essentially someone has to get it, and that someone could be you. So don't miss out on a good opportunity.
So, like we spoke about before, Giorgio applied for a scholarship directly through the VTAC system and was awarded an equity scholarship. Scholarship research is time well spent, so make sure you have a good look when applications open.
One of the greatest things about tertiary study is there are so many options out there, and that you can finally train in or study something that you are really interested in, and also develop transferable skills at the same time. So if you have a passion or a special interest in something, there's probably a course out there that's perfect for you. You may have already had an idea of what you might like to do next year, so now we're going to help you understand what you need to do in order to get there. Most courses, including certificates, diplomas and degrees, will have subject prerequisites, and some may have selection requirements that you must meet in order to receive an offer into a course. These prerequisites are listed on both the VTAC and individual institutions' websites, as well as in course guides. You must have the minimum prerequisite study scores for all subject prerequisites listed for the course, or you will not be considered. These study scores are the raw score for the VCE subject, not the scaled VTAC score used to calculate an ATAR. For example, when a university has a prerequisite of 30 in English, they are referring to the raw study score of English. So it's important to score 30 or above if you would like to be considered for the course. Certain courses also require additional selection requirements that must be completed in order to apply. For example, you may be required to submit a portfolio, attend an audition, sit an interview, test, or provide an extra form. Details about these additional requirements, including due dates, can be found on the course webpage and through VTAC. It's important to be mindful that similar courses may have different requirements, depending on the institution you apply for. So again, make sure you complete some thorough research. Now we're going to move on to pathways, which is probably a term many of you have already heard before. Pathways are a great way of getting to your dream study course, as this next video will explain.
Hi, my name is Macfira and I studied a Cert 3 in aviation as a pathway to get into Bachelor of Tourism. So I was studying my Bachelor's in Nursing. I did that for a year and a half. I started it right after high school and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the blood, the vomit. I just didn't have the heart for it. I think I had about a semester off and then I thought about becoming a flight attendant, and so I applied for the Cert 3 in aviation cabin crew. I got it, finished it, got a job with Jetstar, and then I just wanted to explore in the industry. So I really love the tourism industry, and I applied for a bachelor's in tourism and I absolutely love it. I feel like I'm in my element. Like, I just love it. I love everything about it. Just the industry of just tourism is just amazing. And I go to a lecture and I'm like genuinely interested. Like, I literally sit there and I'm just like with my book, my laptop and everything. I love it. It's just, yeah. I feel like if I didn't do the Cert 3, then I would not have gone to my bachelor's at all. It's definitely okay to not know, because when you think about it, you're still 18. You're pretty much in that phase where you're an adult, but you're not an adult, but you're not a child at the same time. So it's like a hard stage of like making up your mind and decision making and all that. You might end up not liking it, but it's always good to have something in the back, like something to fall back on and say, this is what I actually want to do, and go and do it.
As we saw in the video, Macfira decided to enrol in a Certificate 3 in aviation as a pathway into the Bachelor of Tourism. Pathways are also a great option if you are unable to meet the prerequisites for your dream course.
Once you've decided what you'd like to study, it's time to apply. For many courses, particularly certificates and diplomas at TAFEs and some ITCs, you'll need to apply directly to the institution by completing an application form on their website. Most other courses, particularly university courses, will require you to apply via the Victorian Tertiary Admission Centre or VTAC. VTAC applications open early August and timely applications close towards the end of September 2022. Be sure to check out the exact dates on the VTAC website later this year. So what does timely mean? It means your application will cost you more afterwards if you're too late. Fees for this year are yet to be confirmed, so again, check the VTAC website for more information. VTAC lets you apply for up to 8 courses at once across multiple institutions in order of preference. We always recommend to treat it like a wish list of what you're interested in studying, not just what you think you'll get into. Remember to make sure you meet all the entry requirements, including subject prerequisites and any extra requirements to ensure you're eligible. Also be sure to include pathway courses just in case things don't go to plan, and use the correct course code. VTAC also has a special entry access scheme, often referred to as SEAS, which allows applicants to submit for special consideration if there have been any circumstances that have made it difficult for you to do your best in your studies. SEAS is designed to make sure institutions get a sense of your full potential, and it enables institutions to consider the circumstances you have experienced and their impact on your studies when making selection decisions. You only have to submit one SEAS application, and all institutions you've applied for will be able to access it. So it saves you communicating your circumstances with multiple institutions over and over again. There are 4 categories in SEAS as shown here. You can apply for as many categories that are relevant to your situation, so long as you apply to each category for a different reason. In the next video, we'll hear from Rosa on how a SEAS application worked for her.
Hi, I'm Rosa and I received a SEAS adjustment and I'm now studying law and commerce. In year 10, I went and did a work experience and I was like, okay, I want to be a doctor. Got there, saw the blood, not for me. So I did another work experience and a law firm, and I thought that was quite interesting. So it was conveyancing, and then I got offered a part-time job thereafter. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do law. I knew that I did relatively well in school, but I knew I wasn't going to get 98. In year 10, a representative from a university came down to our school and they just explained to us, you're an underrepresented school, so we're here to help you transition into university, and there's this thing called the SEAS application. It's to help students who don't quite get the ATAR score or have experienced some sort of circumstance that is out of their reach, which might have disadvantaged them in terms of their education. So it's kind of like an ATAR boost. I fell into a few categories in SEAS. I went to an underrepresented school. I had a disadvantaged financial background. I also fell into the category where my parents don't speak English, and I was also the first in my family to go to university. When I did get my ATAR score, I was gutted. So I was considering changing my preference, but my teacher said, no, don't change your preference. If that's what you want to do, you put that as number 1, regardless of your ATAR, and let them determine whether or not you're good enough. So I left it there on her advice, and yeah, I got the first round offer and I was stoked. Putting a SEAS application does not put you at some sort of stigma or disadvantage. It just means that you got into your dream course, which you probably should have gotten into in the first place had you not faced all these circumstances. Once you're in the course, no one cares what ATAR score you got anymore. So why not? Like, if you don't get the ATAR, at least you've got the SEAS application, and it's something that the universities will consider when accepting you.
Once you've submitted your application through VTAC, you'll only be able to change your preferences at certain times. These are referred to as change of preference periods. Once you know your ATAR, there will be a change of preference period where you can reorder, add, or remove courses from your list. You must have met all prerequisites and any extra requirements for all courses you're applying for to be considered. Make use of career teachers, info sessions, and helplines provided by institutions during change of preference. Once change of preference finishes, courses are locked in. The first round of offers will be where most courses will release offers. However, not all. If you don't get an offer in this round, don't panic. Your course might just be making offers in the next rounds. Change of preference will open again for a short time immediately after this round. The next round of offers are then released and the cycle repeats. When you receive an offer, you can accept it, reject it, or defer it. Deferring means you accept the offer, but ask the institution to hold your place for 6 or 12 months before starting, so you can work or travel before beginning. We recommend to always accept your first round offer, as you're still eligible to receive offers from higher preferences in later rounds. Please note that some institutions accept direct applications after VTAC closes and may also offer mid-year intake. We're now going to speak briefly about the experiences you'll have in the transition from high school to tertiary education, the many ways you can access support, and all the fun you'll have being a student. But first, let's hear from Chaz about his experience transitioning to university.
Hi, my name is Chaz. I study a double degree in engineering and science. So I thought university was going to be a lot like high school. I'm going to be having teachers on my back, asking me if I've done an assessment, reminding me that I have the assessments coming up or an exam coming up. And they do sometimes, but I didn't expect the freedom. With freedom, there comes a price, which is taking responsibility in your learning. So people kind of trust you to like, oh yeah, this person's gonna do the best they can, and we just gotta have our faith in them. So you're in charge of your own learning. The times that I had no classes in between, I just walked around multiple times looking around where I can study. If I have a question to ask, like about like student admin related, I would find where that is. I spent a good, I had to say like 10 hours probably, just seeing what's what, where can I find who I need to find, asking a lot of questions. Even though they sounded silly in my head, a lot of people are pretty understanding that they've been at that point in their lives, like, oh, this person is just as new, I've been there before. So they really relate, and they just give you the answer that you're looking for. So I went to a lot of coffee tours. I talked to a lot of university clubs. It makes your university life so much richer that when you look back, you've done so much, and you remember you didn't just go there to study. You went, you made friends, you took that chapter of your life to another step, like another level, and it becomes so much more interesting when you look back at the memories that you made.
Chaz spoke about how his transition went from high school to university, but there's also plenty of information and resources available that can help you with that transition, regardless of which year you're in or when you're looking to begin tertiary study. We recommend researching the 3 Ps: people, places, and publications. People. These are the people that either have information on the types of career you're interested in or know you really well and can help you with your decisions. Teachers, career teachers, friends and family, people currently working or studying in the industry, or representatives from the different tertiary study institutions, including people like us. Places, including opportunities for you to experience in person the different options you are considering. Work experience, institution open days and campus visits, extension programs, and other industry experience days. Publications. These include any sources of information that you can collect and research your options. Institution course guides and websites, and also the VTAC website. Students can also use the Course Seeker website as a tool to get impartial and reliable advice on future careers and course options for universities across Australia.
Thanks for watching. We hope you learned a little more about your options after high school and how the tertiary studies system works. If you're attending one of our upcoming TIS Expos, be sure to make the most of your time there and speak with all the available experts from different tertiary providers. And remember to attend as many events, virtual and in person, as you can this year, and stay in touch with VTAC and other institutions via social media and websites to ensure you make the most educated decision you can about your future. Thanks again, and good luck for the rest of the year.